Everybody, welcome to another episode of Facebook Live Q&A. I am your host, Tom Bilyeu, and I'm here with the voice of the community, Cindy. What is up, Cindy?
Hey, everyone.
How we doing?
I'm doing really well today.
Ready to rock and
Ready
roll?
to rock it.
Nice.
Ready to rock it. I slept like a million hours yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I was just tired because I've
done.
had like events all week and like I was in Vegas the weekend before that.
Yeah.
So I was just like,
Need a little catch up.
God, I'm tired, but
Yeah.
I'm ready today.
Nice.
Yeah. So just a few housekeeping things, just so
Absolutely.
everyone knows we won't be having our normal lives next week, but we made sure to like pre-record some things and get your questions answered and tackle a lot of the different topics. And for those who don't know, Tom's going to be in London all of next week.
Yes.
And he's having a meet and greet at Bar Americain.
Yep.
At 7 p.m. on the 15th. You can check out the details in the events tab. And then we'll be having our first Los Angeles like Impact Hour, which is going to be our like summer happy hour series, which is also located in the events tab. And I'm super excited about that one.
Nice.
Finally kicking off our live events for everyone.
Yes. I'm very sad I won't be able to join you guys for the first Impact Hour, but I will be either in London or in France. I'm not sure when you guys are doing it. But so going to, the reason for the trip is Cannes Lion. So we're headed there for that. That should be a lot of fun. Very excited about that. And then hitting up London because, well, when you've got some in-laws and you're literally across the channel, then you have to swing by and say, what's up? And I'm excited to see them. I love those guys so much.
Pit stop. Yeah, I heard Lisa's mom on the phone this morning.
Did you really?
She's so cute.
Yeah, she is an amazing human. Literally, just like a scary good person.
I love it.
Yeah, she's a good peeps.
All right, so ready to kick it off?
Ready. Oh, although I will say first, if this content is adding value, please do share.
Yes.
We just crossed 50,000 on
50,000.
Facebook.
Thank you.
Big it up, big it up. Yeah,
Woo!
Nice little love there from the Impact Theory team. And could not be more excited or more grateful to you guys. Thank you so much. And we had set a goal for ourselves at the beginning of this year when we kicked off, and we have just smashed past where we thought we'd be at this point. And that is all thanks to you guys. So, and it comes down to those shares. So if you would, if it's adding value to your life, share. That really, really helps. And we won't go into it here because I've talked about it a lot and I want to get to your questions. But building the community is phase one of our master plan of making the world a better place. So yeah, help us. And now I will officially address this camera.
Love it. Okay. So this is a topic to kick off because I feel like a lot of people saw the Peter D clip and so many people are side hustling and trying to balance that. So you've talked about when you first started Quest, still working at Awareness Tech. So maybe just gives people some of the tactical time management or tips that you used while you were doing that to like, you know, side hustle.
Yeah. So here is the no BS answer. Like at some point you just have to give up virtually everything else in your life. That is the truth. And so when we were still at Awareness Technologies, and this was one of the reasons, like, because when we started Quest, I think Lisa and I were still in the like 2 years from now phase with kids. And it was really when we started Quest that we started to say, I'm not sure like that we're actually going to have kids, because from a time management perspective, I knew that was going to be a problem. Now, if you already have kids, then there's going to be other things in your life that you're going to have to give up. But we just essentially, I won't say we worked around the clock, because as you're learning, like sleep is important to performing cognitively. But I will be honest, if I need to give up sleep, I'll do it in a heartbeat.
Same.
So I try not to do it very often because I don't want to degrade my cognitive performance. But if I had to work a normal job and then try to build something on the side, I wouldn't hesitate to give up sleep. And there were plenty of times where we had to do that. I remember there was at the beginning of Quest, so we had this really old mixer, but every time you made a batch, it was $5,000. So if something happened with the batch, then you're out $5K. Like, and that was catastrophic at that time. So we were, I remember one night it was like, I don't know, like 11 o'clock, and we were putting in the last batch and the mixer froze. And so I was like, oh, don't do this. And so we finally got that going again. We got the bars out, and then the line was breaking down. And it was always the wrapper, like the wrapping machine. God, I wanted to punch that thing in the face. So, and it just kept going down, kept going down, kept going down. And then finally it had like a terminal problem. So by now it's like 1:30 in the morning or something like that. And the heat coupling was broken. So like it uses heat to seal the wrappers, and it just wouldn't get hot. And so the bars wouldn't seal. And I'm like, there's no universe in which we lose these bars. Like, I'm not losing $5,000.
Right.
There's just no way. It's not going to happen. So called my partner, because I had tried to fix it. And it was just beyond, like, I'm terrible at fixing things. It was beyond what I knew how to do. He manned up. He came. And it's just like, you're going to get less sleep at that moment, right? There's just no two ways about it.
It's like you're up all night.
Yeah. So is what it is. We banged it out. We got it done. Ends up becoming one of those cookie jar moments, like, you know, when you just, and to be honest, like, it was one of my favorite memories, because I was like, I'm not going to be moody about this. Like, let's have some fun. Like, let's laugh. Let's joke. Let's, you know, get through it. And so ended up being a lot of fun, even though it was just a lot of time and effort. But you're going to have to cut stuff out of your life. It's just that easy. And during that time, like, there were exactly 0 video games being played. There were 0 movies and TVs being watched. I mean, it's just, you're grinding. Right. And so you get on that grind, you work 7 days. It is what it is. And that's why I say you've got to make the demand of yourself that you make money doing something you care deeply and passionately about. So it was easy for me to show up every day and play that hard, because I was thinking about my mom and my sister, and I had totally set money aside. I said, I'm not thinking about money. This is going to be about value creation. It's going to be about doing something beautiful for people. And to give you an idea of why we're so hell-bent about this community and why we celebrate building the community, is because when somebody writes in and says, you've changed my life, you've impacted me, asks a question, can you help me with this? Like, we're so honored. Like, I can't stress it enough. Like, I'm honored by every person that asks me a question, honored by every person that thanks us for what we've done. Like, it's amazing. Like, really, I don't take for granted that we're living in a time where that's possible. And because of that, it's like easy to hustle. It's easy to put in the work. It's easy to grind. It's easy to you know, get up at, I mean, there are times I'm up at like 3 in the morning and to just go right after it. And that's easy because I really believe in what we're trying to build, and because I believe in what we're doing, and I can think about the people that we're helping, and we're actually building relationships with. I mean, there's so many people that are so active in the community that actually know who they are.
I know.
So that's really, really incredible. So when you make that demand, and so you're not just chasing money, and it's not something that you really don't care about, and it's something that's like so core to who you are as a human being, and is naturally on the path of who you're trying to develop yourself into, like, you just give other things up.
Hashtag truth.
Yeah.
Guess that's it, everybody. All right, so this next question comes from Daniel Breeze through the Connect inbox.
Talk about somebody that I am well aware of his existence. Yeah, he's very engaged.
Super active. And he's, so his question is, so he has a question about a close relative of his. The man is now 50, lives with his 2 kids and wife, but has not worked in over a decade. He fell into a depression after his parents passed away. I feel like he's given up on trying to become something because of his age. He needed financial help recently, and I took it as an opportunity to get him to start reading mindset, but I don't want to pressure him too much. Any advice on how to help him? So, like, next steps.
Yeah. Here's the bad news. When somebody doesn't want to be helped, there's literally nothing you can do other than be compassionate. So be compassionate, meet people where they are, show them love. Yeah, but here's my thing. Don't get sucked in. They've like, it's not okay for me. Like, I would never tolerate in my own life falling into that depression. It literally doesn't make sense. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a massive amount of empathy and compassion for somebody who has found themselves in that situation. Right. So, like, love them, encourage them when, without proselytizing, when they present like the opportunities. Like, if they ask, like, dude, I feel so lost, what should I do? Cool, that's a time. And honestly, like, if that person asked, if they said that to me, I would say, man, it really starts with loving yourself. Because I bet right about now, you're feeling badly about yourself, that you haven't like gotten back up, that you haven't found your footing again, you know, married and with kids, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's all kinds of guilt about not being a provider and stuff like that. So step one, love yourself, forgive yourself. Like whatever you're holding on to, like let it go. And then for me, it's about really understanding the brain. Your brain is fucking with you. That's the truth. And the depression is a neurochemical state that you've hardwired because it's been going on for so long.
Right.
Have they sought professional help? That's a big one. And then, like, look, there are easy things to do that have just shown to be wildly effective in addressing depression. And the easiest one is working out. Like, work out, bro. Go for long walks.
Get those endorphins.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's just all of these, every problem you have is solvable, but you have to start with that belief. And so, yeah. But at the end of the day, my real advice is compassion, empathy, and not to get sucked into their world of downward spiral. So the moment they, like, at all times, I would extend a hand, but if they don't take it, I'm not going to yell at them to take it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just cool, man. Totally get it. When you're ready, I'm here. I love you. I want to see great things happen for you. Every problem has a solution. If I can be useful, let me know. And then I'm just going to go live my life.
Do your thing.
Got to. Live by example. They'll reach out when they're ready.
Right, exactly. So usually by leading by example, they'll come a point when they want to come to you because they're kind of seeing your light and they're drawn to it because people are just naturally drawn to light. All right. So our next question comes from Madeline Milagros. Hi, Tom, from here in Toronto, Canada. So shout out to Canada. How do you stay growth-minded when surrounded by fixed mindset people? What if these people are your family and friends and whom you've had a long history of fixed mindset patterns? For example, how do you avoid falling into old negative fixed mindset habits when around your in-laws or parents when they know just how to push those buttons?
So I'll shorthand because we just went deep on compassion and empathy. So I'm going to say compassion and empathy is how I meet everybody with a fixed mindset. I totally get it. I lived so many years of my life lost to that. Like, I never hate on people who are still caught in the matrix. Okay. So now, having said that, there's also the nuanced advanced class side of the coin, which is y'all motherfuckers are crazy if you think that you're going to suck me into your fixed mindset game. I don't have buttons for people to press. I literally, even that, like, I'm not even sure my wife, like, I have no sense in my life of people being able to push my buttons.
Was that something?
I don't have buttons to push. So, I really don't. So you have to get to the point where you know, like, okay, having fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So buttons. My buttons used to be, if you told me that I was dumb or untalented, that would send me into a spiral because, like, I believed that my talents and intelligence were fixed traits. And so you were attacking my value as a human being. I only had one life to live. And so if I just wasn't an above average human being, then how would you deal with that? Like, I'm one of the, like, unwashed masses. Like, it just, that doesn't make you feel good, right?
Right.
So everybody wants to know, how am I special? Like, that's where everybody goes. And that's what parents do to their kids all the time. You're amazing. You're special. You're the best. And that is a game of death. Once people realize, oh, my talents and intelligence aren't fixed traits. They're malleable. I can do anything I want. So I was born average, rad. And now life is a journey of, can I become exceptional at things I really care about? And if, like, you don't have that impulse to want to get great, I can't help you. I'm always going to sound crazy to you. Unfollow right now. Like, I will totally get that, despite all the things we said at the head of the show about being grateful for every person. I'm telling you, if you have no interest in self-improvement, I'm not your guy. I'm going to drive you crazy. None of this is going to make sense. So to me, the purpose of life is very simple. Humans have potential. Potential is opportunity. It isn't a thing in and of itself. And the point of life is to see how much of that potential you can actually realize. So what can you do with it? What can you become? How can you express it, develop it, and really get great at something? Now, I happen to love getting great at something that serves other people. That makes me feel really good. But I want to be the greatest of all time at the things that I choose to get great at, right? That I'm going to put my energy into. So that to me is a big deal. So I'm never going to allow somebody with a fixed mindset to drag me down. Like, that's madness. So they could try to press buttons, but if you tell me that I'm stupid, awesome. In what way am I stupid? Because please, if you can point out something that I'm doing wrong and I can learn from that, and now I can express more of my potential, like, that's amazing. If you say, hey, this thing that you think you're really good at, you're actually terrible at. So what I know about humans is people like to tear people down. So I'm going to go, okay, this is probably coming from a dark place for them. Like, it doesn't feel good. I'm triggering their insecurities in some way. So one, is there something I could address in my behavior that would trigger less of their insecurities? Because I actually want to see them shine. I want to see them do well. I don't want them to be in a bad place. And I could learn from that. So is there something that I could do? It's all my fault, right? I always start with that. But then two, like, have they actually pointed something out? Am I not really as good as I could be? And I could get a little bit better and I could eke more out of my game. Like, that would be amazing. So between understanding that people go on the offense because you've triggered something in them, so I don't take it personally, and I think that's a big thing. Like, if somebody is trying to ruin you, like, they don't want good things for you. They want to trip you up. They're trying to put limitations on you. They're trying to tear you down. Like, understand that's about them. It's not about you, right? And that even if what they're saying really stings because you fear it might be true, cool. Then they're showing you something that you can address, you can highlight, and you can grow and get better. So the people in my life that have been the least supportive, but that are like part of my family, and so I don't plan to cut them out of my life. I'm certainly not going to be spending a lot of time with them, but I have no intention of cutting them out of my life. They would only know love and compassion for me. So that would be their experience, right? They wouldn't even necessarily know that I perceive them as attacking me because they probably don't perceive it that way. Like, a drowning man doesn't see it that they're attacking that person. They're just trying to get air, right? So I know, okay, they're like trying to pull me down and all that. It's not personal. They're just trying to get air. So yeah, they would never know. I'll deal with all of that internally because it's triggering all these very intriguing and powerful things in my mindset about self-improvement, about recognizing what I could do to like change the way that I'm coming across to them, or how do I distance myself from them without alienating them, without making them feel bad or criticize. You know, I don't want that. And then like when, you know, if somebody really like wants to have a deep relationship with you, and there's going to be people in your family, I always like to answer the hard question. Let's say it's somebody like in your family and they're like, I become distant from you. A parent is the hardest one, right? And they really want to connect, but you know their version of connecting is being negative, saying that you're crazy for pursuing your goals and all that. Like, then how do you deal with that person? One thing that I have done in the past is I choose my opportunities very carefully. So a lot of times people will present a moment. Well, one, just listen, right? So instead of trying to give them all the answers to like their sort of assaults on you, just like one question I use when people are being really negative is, what's the thing in your life that brings you the most joy? Like, what are you excited about right now? And then you can get them going that direction, thinking in that direction. And that may, I mean, you could lose an hour, 2 hours to just talking about beautiful things and all that and getting them to focus on that. And maybe that's enough to start bonding over. But if they really push the issue, another thing that I'll do is say, do I have permission to be honest? And I like to ask permission, because once people say yes, then you get to what can they do, follows, right? Yeah. So, and then I'll say, look, here's how I view the world. Here's where I'm trying to go. And I would just say, look, I love you beyond all measure. I love being around you. And no matter what, like, I'm always going to want to be around you. You're my parent, you're my sibling, you're my cousin, you're my best friend, like whatever. And so I'm always going to want to spend time together. But here's what I've learned about myself. I need positivity. So one thing that would be really incredible for us to build a more meaningful relationship is if we can focus on the positive things when we're together. If we can talk about, like, even if it's a problem, how to be solution oriented, you know, those things. And so then going into that and just saying, look, I know you don't mean to be negative, and maybe this is just me, but I perceive it as negative. That, you know, triggers my insecurity. Like, whatever it is that is going on, to be real with them and just really like, don't argue about the tea. which is what most people do. And that's a reference to a story between my wife and I. But like, you'll get in the argument about something surface level. One of the biggest arguments we've ever had was over a cup of tea. And then finally we like said, okay, this is stupid. There's no way we're arguing about the tea. Like, what are we actually talking about? And then when you get to the real thing, then it starts to get interesting. I'll leave it there.
Leave it there. All right, we have a couple shout outs from Tania Eskatine from South Africa.
Nice.
Lavoris Jackie from Michigan and John Belt from OKC.
Nice.
Oklahoma City.
All around. Love it.
Yeah. I love that we have a worldwide audience.
For real, though.
Like, that's like one of my favorite things because like I firmly believe in shrinking the world. So
yeah,
this kind of follows it. All right, so our next question comes from Joshua Martell.
Our boy.
So, Tom, when people talk about feeling or having intuition from the heart, I have led myself to believe that it's an other area of the mind rather than the heart. What do you think? So I guess he's talking about like gut instincts, intuition, that kind of thing. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, so we do have neurons throughout, like neurons, literal brain tissue, throughout the entire tract, running from the brain all the way down to your intestines. So there is something to be said for a gut feel, gut instinct. How that plays into the heart, I'm not sure, but you really do experience that stuff in your chest, at least. And are we mistaking it for the heart? Maybe. But the physiological feeling is what makes people say stuff like that. At the end of the day, higher level cognition is always in the brain. So by the time they're articulating it, it's all brain. But did they get the instinct from somewhere else in the body? It is entirely possible. Like, that's very real. And also, I'm reading The Human Superorganism right now, and the compelling case that it makes that you are... So just to give you an idea of the DNA being expressed, so the code being read, the proteins being produced, all of that, only 1% is mammalian. 99% of the DNA being expressed in your body is from bacteria, viruses, and fungi, and phages and all that stuff. But now, like, really, as we get to phages, I don't understand it yet. But that's like what's really going on. Now, just at a percentage level, hopefully that gives everyone pause enough to go, huh, this is interesting. So I'll give you one example. If you take a baby and you remove all of the bacteria, viruses, fungi, everything, and so they're literally a sterile child, and you give it breast milk, it'll die because it can't process it. So the sugars in the breast milk, which the baby actually can't break down, is to feed the bacteria, to make sure that the bacteria grows. And then once the bacteria grows, then the bacteria will help you digest all the different foods and things that you eat. A baby that's born via C-section is, from a microbiome perspective, wildly different than a baby that's born vaginally. And that a big part of vaginal birth is to make sure that you actually get all the microbes that you need, which is fascinating. So it's like this is infinitely complex, and until we get to AI and really deep learning, we're never going to understand it. I don't think the human mind can comprehend how vastly complicated, like even talking about DNA instead of RNA is already like shorthand number one, because really what matters is the epigenetic expression of the microbes in your gut, not necessarily like the DNA. So it's like, yeah, basically we're all echoes of our ancestors. So let's say that my mom had gone through a period of famine when she was either even before she was pregnant or while she was pregnant with me. That will impact me. Like, think about that. Something that your parents go through before you're conceived can impact you in your own life. That's crazy. There's a name for it. I'm forgetting it right now. But I think of it as like epigenetic echoes. Like, it continues, like, and something that happens to my parents may affect my grandkids. So I think it's 3 generations. It's sort of like everybody accepts it's at least 3 generations, and it might be more. So that's crazy. Hopefully that makes people really think about some of their life choices, because they're going to echo for a very long time. And we are like in our infancy of understanding this stuff. So there is something there. I won't pretend to understand it. But gut instinct, and he talked about heart, but gut instinct is real. That I promise you. You have neurons. You have something like the equivalent of an entire cat brain. So think about the level of personality, the ability to hunt, like all of it that a cat has. You have that many neurons outside of your brain in your body.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So you could literally, I don't understand it well enough. So I won't even attempt to explain it. Let me finish the book.
Okay.
They've just now started mentioning them. So one of the things
like,
that I will
to
have
be
to
continued,
look up. To be continued.
I'm like interested in that just because, and especially that like multi-generational, like epigenetic echo.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it also, if you were to go back and study history, like you would kind of see like how it plays out in the present and then like almost prognosticate to the future.
Yeah. And so full disclosure, an IT alum and a good friend of mine, Naveen Jain, has founded a new company called Biome, which is looking at all this stuff. He was the first person to mention phages to me. And I think we'll probably do, like, at a minimum, an affiliate relationship with him, because I'm so intrigued with what he's doing. I've got Lisa on it. So at some point, like, yeah, it could be interesting enough to me that we look at it from a business perspective. Like, that's how seriously I'm taking this.
Dope. I like it. All right. So this next one comes from Daniel Mulek. Hey, Tom, I found out today that I have several growths on both thyroid glands. Most likely will end up having to have a biopsy to find out if they're malignant or not. While I try to stay as positive as possible, the fear of cancer, of course, drags me down more than I'd like to admit. How would you handle a situation like this?
So this is an amazing opportunity to practice. So this is terrifying, and I've been through this. I had a lump in the back of my throat, and I had to have a lumpectomy and all that, and I was freaking out. But I was young. And so at like knowing, like I know exactly what he's talking about, and your mind you just assume everything is cancer. Like nowadays, like your brain just jumps straight to what's the worst possible answer that I could imagine. So first of all, remember that there are more things that it could be that aren't cancer than that are. So just statistically speaking. And then also that it's an awesome time to practice. Like, even if it is cancer, like you can fight through and survive it. And then B, like just being in a place where whatever comes your way, like I was just thinking about this today in the gym. Today's not guaranteed. Forget tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it through today. So nothing is guaranteed for us, and really finding peace with that. And this is one of those times, I'm not saying like come to grips with your impending death. Like you need to learn to not jump to that conclusion. First of all, like train your mind not to do that. It's counterproductive. And then know that cognitively, psychologically, you're going to be able to deal with anything, no matter what it is. So it's an awesome reminder to focus on the things you're grateful for, because that's going to ground you from a neurochemical perspective in something positive. And the key right now is not to let your brain spiral off into the negative, which is what it's going to want to do. And it's going to be like a group of wild horses that just want to break free and go crazy. And so you really need to, in this moment, practice at not letting it do that. Letting your mind run away with you is not going to serve you. You're going to go through the process. You're going to take it very seriously. You're going to move as quickly as you can to get a diagnosis. If you need a second and a third, you're going to get a second and a third. None of it's going to be fun, but you're going to do whatever it takes. And then if it is cancer, you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that you survive it, like period. And your mind like has to be in full survival mode. And that's how I would be with cancer. Like, man, I don't know how, but I am going to be, this is incredible. Like I'm going to be, if they were like, no one's ever survived this before, I get to be the first, like this is incredible. And you have to force your mind there. So, and then look, I just had a cousin die of cancer, and it was, heartbreaking to see him go through that, but it was also amazing to see like how positive he was like through the whole process. And it wasn't until like the last 10 days of his life, I'll say, that he finally said like, okay, now I'm scared, right? And now like he understood, we don't, like, just being sort of realistic, like we don't have any we don't have any other options. And so that was an interesting transition. And there's no question, like, not having been through it, I will claim to know exactly nothing about it. But seeing him go through it and understanding that psychologically there's just sort of different phases that you're inevitably going to go through. But I just encourage people, as long as you have air in your lungs, find something positive and beautiful to focus on. And I think there was a guy that wrote a book called My Final Lecture. I'll have to look that up. But he found out that he had terminal cancer and wrote a book because of it. And it was pretty fascinating. I only read an article about it because I don't know that the book had been released yet when I found out about it. But that was really interesting to see sort of the level of clarity that it brought to his life. And it was one of those like, oh, I always thought I'd write a book. And then it was like, I need to write the book.
Yeah.
Right. And so there really is something incredibly powerful to that. But I don't know, for me, a big thing is the real thing I would be doing in your situation is I would be focusing only on the positive, all the things that it could be. Other than that, I would not let my mind run away with me. That's what you should do right now at this moment. And then the rest we'll deal with as it comes. But positivity is really the only thing that matters right now. And practicing controlling your mind. That's a big deal. It's a great opportunity.
And there's something to be said for like kind of like de-escalating that like situation 100%. Where you think about it. Because like when I was 16, like I found a lump in my right breast. And so I didn't know what it was. And my first reaction wasn't that it was cancer, even though they're like, oh, like we're going to have to like cut you open, take it out and like check and see what it is. And because like my dad never seemed worried or didn't like immediately jump there, my parents didn't, like my mom didn't, I was like, oh, like it's fine. Like nothing happens. It wasn't until like recently that I was talking to somebody about it. I realized, oh shit, that's like, that could have been the end of everything.
Right.
But because I was just kind of like, okay, like very like calm and relaxed about it and like positive. And then I was thinking about like, well, I'm going to lacrosse camp soon. So like I need to like make sure that this is scheduled in time for me to be able to like go and like play and do all this stuff that, you know, I feel like it didn't have as much of an impact. And so I guess it would probably be a little bit different now, but I always think about the positive ends or always think about like moving towards the future.
Only smart way. Because it could end up being absolutely nothing.
Right. And it was nothing.
So focusing on that makes a lot more sense than focusing on the dire potential.
Exactly.
For sure.
All right. So this next one comes from Nikhil.
And by the way, we're all with you. I know it's a stressful time no matter what we say. So just know that there are people that care. So mad love.
Besitos. All right. So this next one comes from Nikhil Krishnan. I'm from India and I have social anxiety. I feel I'm threatened in a large crowd. I also feel intimidated with more experienced, skilled people. With what mindset do I go into a small community? So I guess kind of maybe step by step what he can do to tackle this situation.
Yeah, so anxiety is your enemy. You're going to have to unwind that. So really reading about, learning about the brain and how you can begin to unwind that is critical step number one. Critical step number two is now that you've learned about the brain, you understand about myelination, you understand that you have to begin envisioning not how things are going to go wrong, but how they could go right. Learning to calm your sympathetic nervous system and click over into the parasympathetic nervous system. Once you're armed with those tools and you know how to practice, then put yourself in those situations and begin practicing de-escalating, 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 and doing that over and over and over and over. And I'm a huge believer in when people are armed with the skills of how to unwind something to do immersion therapy. So it doesn't work if you don't have the skills. You'll just make it worse and worse and worse because you're in that situation without the tools to begin like unwinding it. But once you really understand that process and how to do it, then you want to start putting yourself in that situation and making it easier and easier and easier just to practice that. Don't allow yourself to continue to retreat. And that was my thing with anxiety was in the beginning, part of what created the anxiety for me was I refused to back down. So I was like, I am getting good at this business thing, like period, simple as.
Yeah.
And so I kept putting myself without any tools and how to like stop it from happening, I kept putting myself into the situation that was triggering the anxiety. And like, I was just like, I'm going to fucking muscle through this. And I like just kept putting myself in. And I'm actually proud of like, I didn't back down. Yay. But if I had, when it first started, if I'd caught it a lot earlier, started reading about it, really learned how to unwind it instead of letting it like get worse and worse and worse, I could have made the whole process a lot easier because I would have realized, hey, this is a moment to practice, like, and this is actually how you practice. And that would have been great. So that really is the key. You have to understand what the tools are. And there's so many books, so many blogs, so many podcasts about this that you can go out there right now today and begin getting just absolutely incredible information. And then just really believe, because you asked like, what's the mindset? You should have a growth mindset, just believing that anxiety, switching over into the parasympathetic nervous system and stopping the anxiety, they are skills. Like even anxiety, think of it as a skill. You got really good at it. So you imagined all these scenarios of all the ways that it could go wrong, and you just kept obsessing. And as you could feel your heart rate, like even if it wasn't like this conscious thing where you were imagining that someone's actually going to attack you, you just got into this environment and you felt weird and it just kept escalating. Like your subconscious, even if not your conscious mind, your subconscious practiced that anxiety. And so it got really good at it. So now you have what Tony Robbins calls the superhighway to stress and anxiety. And so you're going to have to figure out, and you have a dirt road to gratitude and happiness and all that stuff. So now you have to strip that back down to a dirt road to anxiety by building the superhighway over here. And the good news is you're not going to have a superhighway to both. So as you build the superhighway to gratitude, happiness, the ability to switch over into the parasympathetic nervous system and calming yourself down and all that, like this will naturally degrade. So that's the name of the game.
Yeah, definitely. And like even from a social perspective, just in a networking situation, let's say, because that's the easiest one to draw upon, is come in with some type of strategy, like whether it's being on the perimeter so that you don't like feel super awkward, you know, smiling at the first person you see and walking up to them, trying not to like go into like large groups, try maybe one person who's also lingering, because that I find also tends to help people when they're trying to like overcome those challenges of social anxiety.
You ready for a really weird one? So I'm not afraid to be embarrassed. I'm not afraid to look stupid. So one thing, like if I were really like in a position where I felt like I had the tools and I knew what I should be doing, but I was still feeling really anxious and I was having a hard time approaching people, but I really wanted to practice. I once went to a Greek fair with a sign this big that I had printed and just baby pinned to my shirt that said in Greek, "I'm looking for a Greek teacher. If you're willing to tutor me, like stop me and say something." And I wore it around and people were laughing and pointing and grabbing me, but I actually didn't get it from that, but I had a couple leads and I ended up getting a Greek teacher somewhere else. But like wearing something that said, "I'm hella anxious. I'd still love it if you said hi. If you don't mind, I'm going to practice like de-escalating." You know what I mean? So that like people would understand. And you will be shocked
surprised
how many people, because they just like want to help. Like people really are like en masse pretty dope. And so they'll come up and now you may need to put like one at a time, please, or something, you know? So it's like, but even just doing something like that, that's going to force you into that kind of situation is like understand what your limitations are and find ways to get around them.
And I'm also one of those people who always goes up to the person who's kind of like hanging back in the corner.
That's a great point, because that would allow you to really speak to people that just love helping other people. Yeah. So, which is the kind of person you need right at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so this next question comes from Corinne, but at first it starts out with some love. As always, big thanks to you and your team for all the great content you guys are pumping up. You're killing it. So thank you, Corinne. Her question is, can you please talk a little bit about accountability and keeping commitments? Specifically, when you're an accountability partner for somebody, or for that matter, when you're holding yourself accountable, what do you do when that person doesn't come through on what they've committed to? What do you think are the most effective strategies for helping them or yourself get back on track? And do you think it's different for helping somebody else versus helping yourself?
Well, I think that, so ironically, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about helping other people. I make the things that I've learned available to as many people that want to help themselves. So my goal isn't to like deal with people that are like, I don't know what to do, and I'm like, you know, feeling too lazy to do anything. It's like, hey, I get it. Like, here's what you have to do. If they don't do it though, I'm not going to chase them. So if I have an accountability partner that's not accountable, then it's like, that's not a good accountability partner. So what I would say you do, because you don't just want to shuck people off, and then they feel like, wait, like this is exactly why I wanted you as an accountability partner to help me through this stuff. Rules of engagement, right? So here are rules of engagement. What do we consider being a good partner to each other? And then like in contracts, they give you this like period to cure. So if we say, hey, as an accountability partner, I get it. Things are going to come up. So if we say that you could miss one a quarter, right? Like one meeting a quarter, totally get it, no problem. But that missing, whatever the 10 a quarter, it's whatever works for you guys. Right. But like you come up with the rules of engagement. And then if they aren't delivering on that, if they're underperforming, that you say, what's the period to cure? So if they miss too many things, if they're not doing whatever work it is you guys are holding to, like how long do they have to fix that? What does fixing that look like? Is there like a catch-up process or something? And then what do we do like if the other person fails to cure? Is it just like the accountability partnership dissolves with a simple like, you have failed to cure, a conversation, like what does that look like? Agree upon it all ahead of time, and now everybody knows what the expectations are. I find a lot of times that this is a disconnect of expectations. Like you just have different expectations. You never talk through what they're supposed to be. Exactly. So laying all that stuff out, so that person may not know what you expect of them. And so just making sure that stuff is abundantly clear. And if it is abundantly clear, they don't abide by it, like then you find somebody else.
Yeah.
That simple.
All right, hopefully that helps, Corinne. All right, our next question comes from Laura Dufresne. Hi, Tom, and Cindy. Hey.
What is up, Laura?
What do you do when a close family member seriously wrongs you and shows absolutely no interest in apologizing or moving forward? No one wants to lose family, but I've tried just about every tactic I can think of to fix the problem, backing off and giving them plenty of time to cool off, writing a nice mature letter explaining that it hurt, but that I want to resolve it, etc. If I can't fix it, how do I cope with the emotional loss of a dear loved one? For context, they're 19.
I will tell you what I do. This infuriates my wife. So this advice is not universal, but I'm so bullish on this. So I accept people for who they are. And if somebody wronged me and I very calmly and clearly articulated, hey, I just want to let you know how that made me feel, like this, that, or the other. Here's what I need from you, whether it's an apology, an acknowledgement, whatever. And you know, you lay that out there. And if I don't get it from them, then okay, I know who they are. So I would go, okay, I know who this 19-year-old kid is or whatever. And then like with nothing but compassion and empathy in my heart, because remember, I'm thinking of it as this person is using a poor strategy to get what they want. Like I have clearly, calmly articulated what I need, talked about how it hurt me, why it hurt me, what the sort of path to reconciliation would look like, what I would need from them. And then if I don't get it, that I meet them with compassion and empathy, because I think they're employing a bad strategy, and then I withdraw myself from the situation. Like, it's that simple. So this is where people say, oh, Tom, you're really good at compartmentalizing your emotions, and I am, but I am because, like, when somebody is bashing themselves in the hand with a hammer, I don't get angry about that. Like this is literally the analogy I'll use for this. So this 19-year-old kid has her hand on the table. They are smashing the hell out of it with a hammer. And I happened to walk too close one day and whoa, like in one of their wild swings, they hit me with the hammer. Now I'm the dumbass. if I like want to go stand next to them while they're smashing themselves in the hand with a hammer. It's like, well, hammers are flying, so that's on you. If like after you say, hey, you hit me in the face with a hammer that really sucked, I don't want to be hit in the face with a hammer again, so I need you to either set the hammer down or I just can't get that close to you, full disclosure. But by the way, I have empathy and compassion for the fact that you feel compelled to hit yourself in the hand with a hammer. But I'm then going to distance myself. Like, that's who they are. Like, I get it. Like, what you're mourning is only that you thought they were someone that they're not. But now you know who they actually are. So now that you know who they actually are, with all the compassion and empathy in the world, give them the space they need to do to be them. Like, I'm over here. Like, if you ever want to stop hitting yourself in the hand with a hammer, I will welcome you with open arms. I don't judge you. Like, that's my thing. Like, I don't judge people. Like, I get it. I get how people can be in the dumbest of fucking positions mentally ever. And why do I get it? Because I lived for decades of my life like a spaz attack, like totally living my life in a way that made absolutely no sense. It did not move me towards my goals. And for me to be like, wow, like what a jerk or an asshole or how stupid was I? It's like, no, I get it. That is the human condition. That is how the mind works. And so some people come into that realization much later in life than any of us want. But the truth is, I just don't hold anyone to my standard other than my poor, long-suffering wife. So, and look, a spouse, I think you have to. Otherwise, like, how are you ever going to like completely share your existence in a committed way? Because if I'm committing to you, that accountability partner, I have expectations, right? So, like, there's just certain things that can and can't happen. There's certain things that we need to grow together. And for this to, I want to be your number one. This needs to be the most beautiful thing in my life. Otherwise, why do it? Everybody else has to be in a position where you can walk away. Otherwise, they suck you into their black hole of death and destruction, and it doesn't make sense. And so if the only thing you're worried about is mourning the loss of that person, mourn away. We're all going to lose things. Give yourself a finite period of time to mourn the loss of the person you thought they were, because they have revealed themselves to be who they actually are, which is clearly somebody that's doing something that isn't livable for you. And just know it is very okay to be who the fuck you are. And it is very okay to say, this is who I am. And with all the compassion and empathy in the world, like, I'm not going to change to conform to other people. Like, I can't tell you how many people super close to me, like, wanted me to conform to match their fixed mindset, worldview, dark, negative, like the world is bad and destructive and like it's unfair and all of that. And here I am going, if a meteorite hit my wife, that's my bad. So I can't join you. Like, I can listen. And I can be a really good, like, listening ear. But if you want to know what I think, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to say, yeah, that thing you're doing, like, let me just tell you why it doesn't seem like an effective strategy. And that's always where I come from. It doesn't seem like an effective strategy. Not, you're a bad person. Oh my God, you're so dumb. It's not an effective strategy. Like, if the goal of humans is to express their potential and to feel a sense of deep eudaimonic happiness, right? Fulfillment. If those, I could think most people will agree, those two things are rad. Right. Everything else is pretty questionable. So if those two things are the goal, like, what you're doing seems counterproductive, which I don't say unless you ask. But if you ask, I'm going to tell you. Seems like a bad strategy. Not a bad person, bad strategy.
Right. And then also remember that if you think about yourself at 19 or, you know, whatever age, you aren't the same person necessarily. So maybe for now, you just have to leave it where it lies and return, especially if it's a family member. You know, you're going to have to interact with them. Like, it doesn't mean you don't love them any less, like you love them any less. Just know that maybe they're just not the person that you need them to be for you currently.
100%. And can we all just agree that just because they're your family doesn't mean that they're not corrosive?
Right. No, 100%.
And you can't be around corrosive people,
like,
man. You
100%.
just can't.
Sometimes you just gotta leave it. Just leave it where it is. But at the same time, understand that you have to be able to interact and still come out from it. Like, if you're sitting at a family dinner and all that kind of stuff.
That's where compassion and empathy comes in. Like,
Exactly.
don't judge them. Like, there are people that have hurt me in my life. I don't judge them.
Right.
I get it. I'm sure I've hurt people.
Right.
So, in fact, let's just state it emphatically. I've hurt people, right? So, and I don't want that to mean that I'm a bad person. And so I don't think it makes them a bad person. And I think that we do things unintentionally. And unless you think this 19-year-old is a sociopath, that is like literally manipulating you and trying to hurt you, in which
Yeah.
case distance yourself.
Go away.
Then yeah, like, I don't know. For me, I don't give my family extra slack for that. It's like, I may not be willing to cut them out of my life. Like you said, there's just family time that you're going to be together. But yeah, you don't have to let them suck you into their world.
Right. Exactly. Boundaries. All right. So this next one comes from Kyle Apsey. Tom and Cindy, love the show and all the outstanding content you're continuing to deliver. So thank you, Kyle. Tom, with all the time and energy you've put into IT, I'm curious to know your level of involvement with Quest. If you're still playing a role with Quest, how do you balance the two companies and provide the biggest impact?
So I completely remove myself. So I'm an evangelist for the brand, but I have absolutely no day-to-day responsibilities whatsoever. So from a time management perspective, that's very easy. So really, how do I manage my time here at Impact Theory? Because there's far more than we could ever do. We are very much drinking from a fire hose, which is a wonderful position to be in, but it takes a lot of energy, and you really have to be careful. My wife and I, that's where really the strategy comes into play of how do you really make sure that you're giving enough energy to the romantic relationship. And one thing Lisa and I have talked a lot about is not wanting to ever become roommates. Like we're roommates that are building a business, but like there isn't that romance, the fire, the passion. So we have to really make sure that we put time, energy, and effort into that. So if I was trying to build both, like when I look at Elon Musk, I just think, how? Like I have to, my worldview forces me to believe I could, but that sounds so deeply unpleasant to me. So there's a part of the brain, let me see if I can remember it. Basal ganglia? I think. Don't quote me on this one. If I were on national TV, I would just keep my mouth zipped on this one. I think it's the basal ganglia that's referred to as the gear shift box that allows you to shift between things. So some people are really, really good at going from like, because nobody can do two things at once. That's actually not true. Do you guys know who Kim Peek is?
I don't.
Oh, Kim Peek, unfortunately, has passed away, but Kim Peek could literally do two things at once. And when you see somebody, because if I'm not mistaken, he had no corpus callosum. So the corpus callosum connects the left and the right hemispheres of your brain. So we could literally read two books at once, and the left side of his brain would be, I guess, over here, because he'd be reading the right eye, and the right side of his brain would be reading his left eye, and he could...
Childhood dreams.
You ready for this? He could memorize both books as he read them simultaneously. Now, sadly, Kim Peek is the guy that they based Rain Man on, so he was not a normally functioning person. But in terms of like showing what the brain is capable of, that's pretty spectacular. That's so cool. So you can memorize two things at once. Normal people, they cannot. So there are some people who are just really, really good at switching gears really, really fast. Now, I happen to be not yet great at that. It's not something I put a lot of time and energy. I'm a like really deep focus kind of guy. That I really, really, really enjoy. So the thought of having like 3 different companies coming at me all the time, like that is crazy. So, and that was ultimately why it just seemed like the right move to not try to do both at the same time. So yeah, that was off and running and doing its thing. And it seemed like a perfect time to kick this company off and build a media company. And originally I had planned to do that in Quest. Like Quest was meant to be my forever company, and I learned a very hard lesson about brands, which is that they're not as infinitely flexible as I wanted to believe. And there are a few exceptions. Like if you look at Virgin, he's done like 300 companies. Now, the vast majority of them have failed, but he's had like 8 or 9 turn into billion-dollar companies. That's insane. And across like wildly different verticals. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't yet have the skill set to do it all within one company. So I just couldn't, between having partners, and we didn't share a vision for how the media company could be as valuable as that, and just putting it out there and people going, why is a protein bar company doing Inside Quest? Like, I'm not really following. So it was like we were building this amazing following for Inside Quest, and we were building an amazing following for Quest Nutrition, but the two weren't connected as well as I wanted. So it just made sense to me, knowing that I like to go deep rather than have all these multiple things coming at me, to just do one. So that's where we're at. I haven't yet forced myself to get really good at shifting gears. So that, and like, you can do that when, like, that's how you've established, like, even take Richard Branson had to buy his first partner out. Because when he wanted to launch the airline, the partner was like, dude, what are you doing?
Oh, no.
So getting like, and there wasn't just 2 of us at Quest, there were 3 of us at Quest. So getting 3 people to agree like to take these huge risks didn't make a lot of sense. So at some point, like, and literally the first words out of my mouth at Impact Theory were, make no mistake, this is my vision, we're going to be executing. If you guys like the vision, yay, like then we can be a team. But what I don't want to do is get into a fight about like, what are we actually trying to execute against here? So that's really important. You know, Richard Branson had to go through that. That's where I'm at. Like, you just really have to figure out, like, when your vision is counterintuitive, like, how many people do you have to convince? And I don't want to have to convince a lot of people. So this is really my attempt to build a forever company from the ground up with a singular vision and just make it nice, clear, and simple. So yeah, that's a really long-winded way of saying I haven't trained myself to be good at shifting gears, so that doesn't sound pleasant to me.
Got it. All right, so we're getting kind of close to the end here.
Okay.
So we're going to finish with a final question from Mary Tier Solano. I'm going to learn how to say your name. So, Tom, what's in your cookie jar that you're most proud of? And then the question goes to me as well. So
I won't give you the thing that I'm most proud of because I really have to think about that. You know, it's weird. As I search and this almost certainly isn't true, but this gives you an idea of something that just like I really take pride in. The time I almost got arrested to make sure that Lisa got seen by a doctor. Like, I was fucking proud of that. That was like one of those moments where, because I don't like confrontation like that. So for me, I was like, this is one of those moments you talk about like all the time that like you would do whatever it took to protect your wife. And now you're presented with the opportunity. And so I was just like, escalate, escalate, escalate. Like, until I'm sure from the outside I seem like a crazy man. But literally, I think the exact quote was, there is no universe in which you don't see my wife. So let's cut to the fucking chase. And because it was over insurance. And I literally redlined.
Yeah.
So that's a cookie jar moment, because normally that kind of thing, like just anxiety out the like wazoo, because I hate that. But to protect my wife, forget it. Anything. If it had just been me, I would have like limped away and like found somebody else. But because it was fighting for my wife, like, yeah, that just was not a problem. And then a really recent example is the 2 episodes of Impact Theory that I did like with the straight flu. And so rewatching, because I was like quite close to being delirious in the episodes. So rewatching the episodes, I was like, am I gonna have made any sense? They were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I was really impressed, and mad love to my boy Jim Quick, who showed up to play. And I don't know if that's because he knew I was struggling, but he crushed that episode.
He let us know that it was like partially because like he was like, I feel like Tom isn't feeling very well.
Yeah.
So he's like,
he murdered it.
He was like, I'm gonna step up even harder.
Yeah.
We talked about it downstairs.
Yeah, he was fantastic. So Jim, my man.
So that episode is really good. I enjoyed that one.
Full legit.
And then as for my cookie jar moments, so I guess it's like the easier one to pull out is like moving to LA, not having ever seen an LA or been to LA really. And just kind of figuring out from there, just like me and my sister against the world with like 2 suitcases. And like no money, which hasn't changed very much, but, yeah, so that's kind of like my cookie jar moment is like this idea of like starting over and trying to like build something from scratch, take 2, 3, I don't even know, but yeah.
Respect.
Yeah. So, we're coming to the end now.
All right. Like wrap it up. Like, we're at the end.
Wrap it up because we have a call right after this.
Okay, well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We love getting your questions and being able to answer them. That is amazing. You can leave them anywhere across social. We aggregate them. But the easiest way is to send them to connect@impacttheory.com. But if you want to leave them on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, doesn't matter. We'll go and grab them and make sure that we answer them all. So thank you, and thank you for showing up in the live. Yes. We love that. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and become one of the 50,000 and growing people that are in our Facebook community, which thank you guys so much.
Connect with us on the Impact Theory League.
Yeah.
Come out to our events, the one in London and the one in LA. They're both up. Make sure that you check out the store, which we just refreshed this week. So we have so many new products for you guys to try out, and let us know. There are discount codes for anybody who's part of the Impact Theory League or signed up to our newsletter. So definitely get on that.
Nice.
And what was that last thing that I was going to say? And for any questions that we didn't get to in this live, we'll add them to the list and kick them off when we're back on regular schedule.
Most def. All right, guys. Make sure that you subscribe to my Instagram channel, because I'm going to be Instagramming like a maniac from Europe. So really looking forward to that. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Peace.
Bye.